Right, welcome to part 3 of Lecture 8, FMGT 3224. We have just finished walking through the keystroke sequence for the Texas Instrument BA2 Plus calculator in order to calculate the internal rate of return. So that essentially concludes the exercise, which means we can now discuss quickly a bit of a comparison between the internal rate of return and the net present value methods. You can go through and read this kind of at your leisure. The biggest weakness of the internal rate of return, to my mind, is this assumption that you are able to reinvest your cash flows at the internal rate of return, and I think that is often not the case. So there, reinvested in the internal rate of return. The advantage, of course, is that if you don't have a discount rate, the internal rate of return doesn't require one to do the computation and stuff. So the other downside on the net present value is it can be difficult. Remember when we looked at that profitability index, just because something had a higher net present value doesn't mean it is necessarily the best project. And bear in mind, too, the profitability index doesn't completely factor in the length of time of the project. So a 10-year project and 2 5-year projects could be, if you can do the 2 back-to-back 5-year projects, you will get the net present value of each of them, as compared with only being able to do the one project, the 10-year project, and that's simply because the shorter project returns your cash to you and you can carry on and do other things. So neither of these is ideal, but generally the net present value is the preferred means of discounted cash flow calculations and analysis. There's a couple other methods that are in the book that we are not going to look at. They're too simplistic, and with the advent of Excel and other tools that we have available, nobody does this anymore. So if you see payback, it's not worth even bothering, and same with a simple rate of return. The final point that we're going to hit on here is that once you've completed a capital budgeting project, so you made the decision, you spent the money, you've gone ahead, you've implemented, you've worked on it for a while, it's usually worthwhile to take a bit of time and go back, 2-3 years down the road, go back and say, okay, we expected this thing to generate X, a net present value of X. What did it actually do? And look at the cash flows. Did it in fact give you the larger annual cash flows that you were expecting, or not? And you can then use that to refine your internal systems and your approaches so that you're in a better position to budget going forward. You've got a more refined model to use. That essentially concludes Lecture 8. Be sure to take a stab at all the homework before the lab quiz.